How's it going, everybody? This will be our third video and our stage 1 upgrade. In the first video, we took the stock exhaust system off. Then in the second video, we put on the 𝗓𝗏𝗏 Big Sucker air cleaner. And in this video, we're going to put on the Khrome Werks 𝗤𝗏 Dominator exhaust system. So here we go. This is everything we get from Khrome Werks. We've got our brand new mufflers. We've got our crossover tube, primary headers, pipes, brand new heat shields, and all the parts that we need here. There's actually only a few parts that we're going to have to reuse from the old system. We need to get our exhaust header ready to be installed, and this is where I said we're going to have to reuse some parts. We're going to have to reuse our retaining rings and our exhaust flanges. When we're putting those on, this little cutout portion is where the retaining ring will sit when the exhaust flange is all tightened up. So this is going to go towards our exhaust gasket. So just like when we took them off, the exhaust flanges go on real easy, and then with our retaining rings, you just got to kind of work it down in there. They're not very hard to put on either. You do want to make sure that you get your retaining rings over this bevel or hump right here, because this is the conical end that's going to go into those gaskets. We're ready to put our O2 sensors in. There are 12 and 18 millimeter O2 sensors. Khrome Werks has ports for both. The stock sensors are 12 millimeter, so Khrome Werks also sends plugs for both the 18 and 12 millimeter in gasket. We're going to go ahead and put the 18 millimeter plugs in. We're going to use some anti-seize on the threads. And then these are 3/8. We're just going to snug those up. We're not going to crank them down. Do the same over here. We're ready to install our O2 sensors. Remember, the one with the black connection is our rear. The one with the white connection is our front. We're going to put some anti-seize on the threads to these. These are a 17 millimeter. So one thing I did off camera is I removed the exhaust bracket that would normally go right here. This, we don't use it with Khrome Werks exhaust system, so I went and took the bracket stud out, and I replaced it with a 5/16 18 1-inch ARP bolt, since I just didn't want this bolt just sticking out This gives it a better appearance, and it's nice and flush. Here's the exhaust bracket from Khrome Werks. It is going to go into the bottom 2 screws right down here of the transmission bearing housing, and it actually is going to use the stock screws. Okay, these 2 bottom screws are 1/4 hex. Like I said, we're going to use the old screws. Get those started. With those snugged up, now we'll take and torque them down. Their torque spec is 22 to 25 foot-pounds. Now we're going to remove our exhaust gaskets. And when you remove the gasket, you want to make sure you get the complete gasket out, and if it tears, you don't leave anything in your exhaust port. And there's the front one that we took out. I'm going to take a little look at the exhaust port, make sure I don't have any debris or anything in here before I install the new exhaust gasket. Khrome Werks gaskets are conical. As you might be able to see, it's got kind of a little bit of a bevel, and that's the way it's going to go in, so we get a nice seal. Everybody always wonders how to get them in nice and straight and get them all the way seated. What I like to use, I don't know if everybody can see this, I use a 50mm race bearing tool, and whether it be Khrome Werks gasket or even a standard one from Harley, it fits on there real nice. And then all I got to do is get it lined up and then push and give it a check to make sure it's seated all the way in. We're ready to put our manifold on now. As I'm putting it in, I'm going to go front first. with my flange nuts on but not tightened, now I'm going to put the carriage bolt in for the bracket here, which got the carriage bolt in, and now I'm tightening up the nut. It's a 9/16. So they say not to tighten this carriage bolt up all the way until all 4 of the flange nuts are tightened up. So I'm going to go little by little on each flange nut, trying to keep them equal so not one flange nut is tighter than the other. Now that the flange nuts are snugged up, I'll go ahead and torque them. They get torqued to 100 to 120 inch-pounds. We're ready to torque down the nut on the P-clamp, 22 to 25 foot-pounds. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run my O2 sensor lines back before we go ahead and start doing the crossover. So I've got my crossover tube in place. I'm going to tighten up the clamp screws a little bit. This is a great little wrench. Vim Tools fits in these nice tight little spots. We're ready to start putting the exhaust pipes on. One of the things though I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these stock brackets here for the exhaust, and I'm going to go with Hogworks adjustable brackets, and I'll go over how to go those in, but this gives the flexibility to adjust your exhaust to get it lined up on both sides the way that you want. So this is what they look like. They go in there and they use the stock screws. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this old hardware out of here. I'm going to take and clean this up a little bit so it simply goes in. Like that, facing inward. Okay, we're ready to put our exhaust in. I've got a clamp on the end of the exhaust. I've double checked. I've got the indentation on the inside here. I'm going to slide our exhaust in. Get the holes on our exhaust lined up with the bracket. I'm going to take it, snug them up just a little bit. We've got all the heat shields, clamps tightened down, and now we'll go ahead and tighten down the exhaust clamps, 38 to 43 foot-pounds. All our exhaust clamps are tightened down. I just need to put the front floorboard back on. Torque down the rider floorboard, which is 36 to 42 foot-pounds. The Khrome Werks 𝗏 Dominator exhaust is installed. All I need to do now is take the covering off and clean up the exhaust from any oils and stuff before I start it up. Now there's really only one thing left to do, and that's to start it up and see how it sounds. That wraps up our Stage 1 upgrade. I'll put links down in the description for everything that we used. Denny and I hope everybody enjoyed the videos and got something out of them. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. We love hearing from everybody. And as we always say, until next time, be safe and keep two wheels on the ground.